Okay, you guys, welcome back to Office of the Day podcast today. I'm very grateful to have Bruce on the line with me, Mr. CEO of PowerBuy and multiple other companies, a big visionary, and as well personally touched me the other day when we had a talk prior to this interview. So I just wanted as well, thank you for your time. Thanks for coming on and introduce yourself because nobody could do it better than you.
Well, thanks, Mark, for having me. Hi, guys. I'm Bruce Wantanabe. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of PowerBuy. This is actually probably my fifth venture, and this is my latest journey with PowerBuy. So I'm very excited to share with everyone what I've been working on, what we're planning to do, and how we're planning to disrupt e-commerce and social commerce worldwide.
I love that. And since you brought that up, I would just like to start on that immediately. How are you planning to continue to disrupt e-commerce? Because from what it looks like online, it seems like you already have disrupted. How do you are planning to continue to disrupt and continue to help many people that are, you're turning over to convert and buy?
Well, if you look at it, right, since the 90s, technologically, nothing has really transpired or been disrupted since the initial introduction of the buy now or add to cart checkout experience, right? That was first introduced in the 90s. Like even today, when you go to any e-commerce site, right, whether it's a brand or an online marketplace like Amazon or Walmart, you still see the buy now or add to cart checkout experience.
Right.
And lately, you've been seeing a lot of buy now, pay later ventures that are making a big splash in the market. But at the end of the day, they're payment options that piggyback off legacy checkout experience like add to cart or buy now. So for us, PowerBuy, we're introducing a new checkout experience. So when you go to any of my merchants that are currently using PowerBuy, you'll see the traditional add to cart or buy now, and you'll see the PowerBuy button. And then you can initiate the PowerBuy checkout experience. And it's like a cool, innovative, and fun, checkout experience for the shopper versus kind of the plain vanilla add to cart buy now. And, there's really no fun and interactive experience with the traditional checkout experience. So that's how we believe we're disrupting e-commerce, which, as I mentioned earlier, hasn't been disrupted since the 90s.
Yeah, and I think that's great too, because in retrospect, you're putting a way for as well your buyers to engage with you and feel good about what they're buying, right? And in it's more of a simple, sleek matter where they don't have to, go to you have both options, but it looks like the first option is better because you're getting them to interact with your product and your website. And what I was looking over too, that your turnover ratio compared to other e-commerce websites and normal ordained websites is a lot higher than what it is compared to anybody else.
Yeah, because with PowerBuy, there's value with both the brands and retailers that are deploying PowerBuy on their own e-commerce site, and there's value to the shoppers, right? So I'll talk about the shoppers first.
Okay.
So when you go to any of the brands that are currently using my software, you'll see two prices: the buy now price, which is a single quantity, and you'll see the PowerBuy price, which is based on multi-product, multi-shopper, right? And naturally, you're going to gravitate towards a cheaper price. So the shoppers can basically go through PowerBuy checkout and just say the brand decided minimum quantity of 5 to get a 10% discount. So the shopper can basically meet that minimum quantity by buying different things. So when they click on the checkout experience, our AI recommendation engine will basically throw a lot of recommendation, and then that shopper can add different things into their cart to meet that minimum quantity themselves. Or they can basically purchase that one item or two items, check out, and then basically crowdsource demand through social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, whatever, right? So there's a value of the shopper there. You get the discount, it's fun, interactive, and you can basically invite your friends and family to enjoy that same discounts. But on the brand and merchant side, right, they basically, the moment that shopper crowdsources demand, they post it on Facebook. Typically on average, you get 1,000 friends, or they post a reel on Instagram. They just basically created organic demand. Before, you had the brand or retailer had to pay for that click, ad, or impression, right, on Google, Facebook. They had to pay for that. But
Absolutely.
because of the fact that PowerBuy leverages the existing customers to drive demand for them, they're technically basically creating micro influencers and letting those customers drive the demand for them and creating brand awareness. Second degree, third degree, fourth degree of separation through the power of social media. So there's a huge value that PowerBuy brings to not only the shoppers, but also to the brands.
Absolutely.
And then some of the values in terms of metrics that we bring to the brands is PowerBuy checkout brings an 11.5% on average conversion rate. That's unheard of versus the traditional checkout experience of less than 1%.
Right.
Cart abandonment rate, industry average is 75%. PowerBuy brings in 26%.
Jeez.
And fraud, post-COVID, fraud rate went up the roof with e-commerce, right? But because of the fact that when you're crowdsourcing through social media, you're bringing in trusted traffic, your friends and family, into the deal. So the fraud rate, although our mission wasn't to reduce fraud, just the concept alone helps our brands reduce their fraud by 0.05%.
Right.
So very powerful in terms of what PowerBuy can bring to brands and retailers.
Yeah, and I love that. It's just like the bundle, right? For all of our listeners and everybody engaged, this is something that you need to consider, especially just with the way things are going. People have low attention spans to begin with, and they always want something with whatever they're buying. Like exactly the PowerBuy of the bundle. It comes in a package. It's better that way. And just to retract a little bit, just for our listeners, because, obviously I'm pushing everybody to be their own boss. Obviously, you're not ever your own boss because clients are your bosses. But let's just retract and talk about a little bit of like your upbringing. And let's say, even if you didn't have an entrepreneurial background, which I know you do, any recommendations to people that don't, to go and look for it? Actually, let me rephrase that. I was like 2 questions or 3 questions. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you even began to get into this, or one of your first ventures.
So I grew up from an entrepreneurship background. So when I was growing up, I saw my, father was an entrepreneur, growing his business from a small business to an international business. So, indirectly, I was exposed to the entrepreneurship, and, when I talk to him, he always gives me advice and all that. So I grew up with that. But it was always my mission when I was young to basically surpass my father. That was my goal. My initial goal is to basically, he yielded his own success. It was my job to basically achieve my own success and basically surpass him. So that was kind of my main motivator to do it. And I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
So when I started my entrepreneurship journey, it's not like I had a great idea. I just did it. I just knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I knew I can take risks. I knew that, I had the grit in me. So I got into, I was in software, and I decided, I'd take my experience in software and start basically developing my own software company. That was my first venture. And I just did it. I basically did it on a whim. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a roadmap. I didn't have, a 100-page business plan. I just basically decided one day I'm going to do it, and I just did it and pulled the trigger. Because the way I see it, entrepreneurship, right? It's like having a baby, right? Everyone can plan and talk about having a baby, but until it's born, you just talk. Same as a business. Business, everyone talks and everyone wants to talk about a business plan and financial forecast, but until you pull the trigger and basically set up your own LLC, C Corp, or S Corp, your baby is not born. Yeah. But once it's born, right, human nature kicks in, and you got to basically raise the baby, same as a business. And that's the way I see it. So after I started my business, I have my own LLC. Oh crap, I got to start working on building this business and helping it grow. And that's how I started my entrepreneurship journey.
And that's so cool. I mean, by the grace of God, you did have that background. However, I feel that, with your mindset and how you are and how, being able to look at the world and dissect everything, you still would have ended up that way anyhow. But, given with that, it's really cool because the influence that you'll be able to do and be able to impact with people, because obviously we're stronger together. The whole point of this is to help, give power back to the people and remind them that, just how you said, just take that first step and then continue to make the steps and just keep going.
Human nature will kick in, Mark. Once you start, because that's the biggest and most difficult task to do, is pulling the trigger and setting up your own company. I think that's the most difficult step, but it's the most important step. Because once you take that first step and that LLC is set up and your name is on the paperwork, right? Now you got to do something about it. You got to do something about it. And human nature will kick in, and your intuition will kick in, and you'll do whatever it takes to basically grow the business.
Yeah. And now I have a really good question, because the position you're in, this is something I know you're looking at all the time. What differentiates you and your team and what you're implementing to continuously grow and keep that rate of growth and keep, rising your percentages of turnover rates and ultimately just helping people? What are you doing to implement that within your team and your systems?
So what I tell my team all the time is always challenge your success.
Okay.
Even though we say we accomplish a milestone, we accomplish a big achievement or success, always question, because there's other competition out there. And now because of the internet, because of social, we're so more closer together, and information is available, right? So even though we have a big win, right, a big accomplishment, I always tell my team across all the organizations, challenge your success, and always challenge it, because we always have room to grow. Because there's another competitor out there that could possibly come out and wipe you out in a heartbeat, just like that. Let me give you an example. MySpace, Friendster. Facebook ain't no different, right? Ain't no different. It's the same concept as MySpace or Friendster, but guess what? You see MySpace or Friendster being around? No. Facebook did it better, cheaper, faster. They take the same concept and accelerated it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And is there anything that you're doing in between, like having checkup meetings or and revised reports, in the sense of checking up on them, or how are you managing everything? Because I mean, you're a CEO of one company, you're a CFO of another company, and that's not even including your ventures or your other ventures on top of, being a family man. How do you manage everything?
The way I manage my businesses is I have really key people, because at the end of the day, me alone, I'm probably one of the most dumbest people in the room anyways. So what I have is I have key people in key positions that can basically take over my weaknesses. For me, I see myself as a visionary, right? And
Right.
I kind of foresee and map out the 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan, as well as a vision for the company. But the team that executes it, it's not me, because I know that I won't be able to do it. I don't have the ability to do it. I don't have the skill set to do it, right?
Right.
So I think the key for being not just an entrepreneur, but the CEO of a company, is to make sure that your vision and your roadmap is very clear and transparent throughout your organization, and you fill in key people with key talent to basically fulfill that mission and vision of your company. So that's what I do, is I just get out of the way and
Yeah.
let the key people that are much more smarter than me, much more experienced than me, to do the rest.
Gotcha. And that clears out the micromanaging part, right? Because you already have trusted individuals and they're going to play their part. You just check the finances, make sure everything's up to par. So-and-so meetings every once in a while. Delegation, right?
That is the key, is delegation, especially if you're a startup venture, because as a CEO, you got to wear two hats. You got to make sure that the business is continuing to grow. You're achieving your metrics, your growth targets, etc. But you're also basically meeting with investors, especially if you're trying to raise Series A, Series B, Series C round with venture capital. You got to do both. And as CEO, you can't do both. You can't. There's no way that you can do both. So you got to make sure, while I'm speaking with investors and speaking with VCs, I got the team in place to basically give me the metrics I need so that these VCs will invest in my company. So
Right.
that's why the key to success is delegation, and making sure you got talented people that can fill in the areas that you need the company to succeed.
Absolutely. And that creates the perfect plug on my next question. So VCs, investors, what does OPM mean to you, and how do you leverage OPM, or how do you leverage using OPM or to obtain OPM to help your business? Maybe not at this point, maybe earlier, and when you first started, like a year or two, and specifically this, how are you using or getting OPM or leveraging OPM to get, investors involved in your company, given if you do need it?
So because of the fact that my existing investors consist of family offices, corporate
Okay.
VCs, and VCs,
Okay.
as long as you're continuing to achieve your targets. Now, I have a great team again. I'm going to always bring my team, my co-founder, into this conversation.
Right.
You don't have to look for VCs. VCs, their job is deal flow, right? Their VCs are getting money from their LPs, limited partners, to make sure that they get a return on investment. It's like the stock market, right? And if you have a great stock and it's growing, these VCs will come. They'll come to you. It's not, you don't need, it's the other way around. Now,
Absolutely.
if you're raising money on a business plan or a pitch deck, yeah, you're going to have to do a lot of cold calling. You got to do a lot of relationships. But if you got, a well-established product, you've got a product market fit, consumer adoption, which I currently do, VCs will come to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, with that, is there anything that, since you have so much experience compared to myself and, probably a lot of other people that are listening, not everybody, but what do you feel is most important to keep your business afloat? I know the answer to this question, but what do you feel is most important to keep any business afloat when you first start?
I think in my sheer opinion, the only thing that matters is your ability to be optimistic at all times, especially if you're a CEO, because all the employees rely on you, is to be optimistic and never give up. Because you know what? Every startup, there's no such thing as an overnight home run. I mean, people say that, like, let me give you an example. Airbnb. You know how many times they pivoted their business before they went IPO? 8 times. 8 times. Uber, almost, when they first started, they're going to run out of money in 30 days. But the CEO kept his vision and was optimistic and he believed in it. As long as you're optimistic and you don't give up, that is, I think, the recipe for success. Like my business, I pivoted so many times. I could have gave up. I could have gave up at least 3 times in this current venture right now.
Right.
But because I believed in it, I believed in the concept, I believed in my company, I believed in my employees, and my investors believed in me, right? That's how I was able to persevere and pivot and continue to grow this business. It's so easy for anyone to give up, especially when, money is very tight, you're not achieving your metrics, you're not achieving this, people give up. Just the way it's so hard for people to start their own business and pull that trigger and set up their LLC. It's the same thing as if things are not going well, I'm out, I give up, move on, I'll go get a corporate job. Yeah. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone, for sure.
It's not for everyone. And you just keep plugging on to my next, given that you always believed and you've always been optimistic, even when things aren't going your way, how or what do you do? Because for me, I wake up every morning and I implement some kind of gratitude. What are you doing to, be grateful for everything? Because again, like how you said, even when it's going horrible, it can be 10 times worse, right? So how do you implement gratitude in your everyday?
I take a step back, and even though things are not going well, even though a VC told me no, I still see that as a blessing for me. I learned something from it. I met someone. Even though they said no, or even though I'm not achieving what I wanted to achieve, I feel like if I look back, I'm learning something and I'm growing. Whether I'm creating awareness, whether, maybe down the line, this VC that said no will maybe say yes in the future. So I think taking a step back, and even though, excuse my shit is hitting the fan, you take a step back and realize, hey, you learned something from it. There's a learning experience from this. I think that's crucial.
Absolutely.
And that's how I keep on going. Is taking the positives out of every experience, whether it be good or whether it be bad.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I think for me, myself, from my personal experience, the longer you can stay in a situation, given if it's going to provide you value and grow, and you can endure the pain and you could keep going, like how you said, you end up realizing something ends up working out along the way when you didn't think it was going to. And it's just, I feel that, like how you said, a lot of people just give up too easy. They're right there and they got to go through a couple more walls, a couple more obstacles, and then they fall down. Because why? I mean,
that's the easy thing to do, Mark. And that's the most, that's what makes the most sense in human nature, is give up and take the safe route, not knowing that these companies like Airbnb, Uber, Lyft, these disruptors, you have no idea what they've gone through to get there. But on the outside, everyone's, oh my God, these guys are billionaires and these guys did this and it looks so easy. Oh, hell no. Heck no. No way.
Absolutely not. And even Tesla too. I mean, Tesla, all the
Oh
bigger.
yeah, exactly. It's not, if it's easy, Mark, everyone will be doing it. If it is that easy to, to become a unicorn or to become a billion, whatever your goal is, right? Everyone will be doing it. It's because of the fact that they had the sheer grit, they were optimistic, and they knew nothing was impossible. That's why they're able to do, that's why they're there, right? That's why they're able to do what they're able to do, because they never gave up. And same goes for my company. I'm sure that I'm gonna have to pivot a couple more times, but as long as I don't give up and I'm clear on my vision, where I want to do and disrupt e-commerce, that's what keeps me going every day.
And with that said, I mean, where do you feel that where do you feel that your company's lacking anywhere that you guys need to penetrate right now? We're not lacking, or you could put more focus on that you haven't yet.
What is lacking for me is it sounds kind of ridiculous, but I've got the secret recipe, right? I've got the secret recipe, which is my company, my business, my software, my platform. But I never have enough ingredients, and that ingredient is capital. It sounds like, capital is, it is very difficult to raise money. It is very difficult. But for me, like, if I had that key ingredient, which is capital, which is kind of easy, as long as it's got a secret recipe, then that's what I need. That is what's lacking in my company. I just don't have enough capital to continue to grow my business the way I want to grow it. If I had $100 million, oh my God, I mean, geez, Louise, I would make a big difference and disrupt e-commerce probably sooner than later.
I love that. What kind of I mean, because now, I mean, you're at the point that you already have the growth, or people looking at the website, buying stuff, bundling stuff, power buying stuff specifically.
Mhm.
What contracts are you going for? What kind of companies are you going for? Any company that's listing stuff online, does it have to be, it is not limited to actual physical products, right? I mean, obviously you can sell digital products on your website too, right?
So for me, so I'm not the brand. So I
Yeah.
provide my software to the brand, right? So you see a lot of brands trying to go direct. Amazon, Walmart, eBay, they're great, but it's a necessary evil. They basically own the customer, right? So if you're a brand and you list on Amazon, Amazon owns a customer, the brand doesn't. So you see a lot of initiatives lately where brands want to go direct to consumer more. And
Right.
my software allows that, where a brand can set up their own website and sell direct to consumer on their own website. And basically I provide PowerBuy as one of the checkout options for the brand. And
Gotcha.
currently our software is available for Shopify merchants. So if you're a Shopify merchant, you can download our app on Shopify. It literally takes 15 minutes to install, integrate, and basically have PowerBuy available on all your SKUs. And we recently partnered up with Amazon AWS. So if you're a brand or enterprise brand, and a lot of these enterprise brands like Patagonia or what have you, they're on a custom built solution, right? They're not on a Shopify, Magento. So we partnered up with Amazon AWS, and we made our API available on what you call Amazon AWS Marketplace, where you can download our API, integrate. And
Nice.
right now, currently, we've got about 800 merchants worldwide currently using PowerBuy today.
And what's the percentage that they have to pay to you guys for using your integration app?
That's a great thing. So we only basically make money if the brand makes money. So we make money off the commission. So if
Okay.
PowerBuy is successful, we take a nominal percentage of the total transaction.
Okay.
Versus if you're paying for a click, ad, or an impression, it's not guaranteed, right? It's very hard to gauge an ROI. But with PowerBuy, we only make money if you make money or if the brand makes money. So we
Right.
take a cut off the transaction via commission.
So it depends on the kind of seller, depends on the kind of product that they're marketing, right? I mean, is it like a base
Well, it doesn't
percentage?
matter. I have merchants selling fish gear. I have merchants selling, drones. I have merchants selling jewelry. I mean, as long as you have an e-commerce store, you can use PowerBuy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say we're going to get rid of, Google ad spend or Facebook ad spend, because that's a huge driver for brands and retailers. But we complement that and we help brands reduce their reliance on that. And some of our brands have reduced their Google and Facebook spend by 30 to 40% by just leveraging PowerBuy.
Jeez Louise,
So they,
that's
so they, they spend money, right, to drive the initial
yeah.
traffic to the website, right, via the Google and Facebook ads. But if they have PowerBuy, then that the traffic that they drive, we can bring in second, third, fourth degrees of separation for free.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying? So that's that's the power of Facebook. But it's all depending on the shopper. The shopper is incentivized to share it. And as long as the shopper is incentivized to share it, there's value to the shopper and there's value to the brand.
Exactly. Given with that said, what do I have to do to get a referral code so I can market it? And, after X amount of people sign up and use PowerBuy for their brand, I can get a small percentage because I'm going to market you regardless. Even without that, it's just fun because what I like to do, again, just help people, help businesses grow. That's what we're here for. So definitely.
One thing, Mark, what we're doing is as part of our Series A round.
Okay.
And last year, we were one of the semi-finalists for Pepperdine University's annual most fundable companies list. There was like 15,000 startups that they reviewed, and we were we were top 16.
Sheesh.
And because of that, we were approached by a company called Net Capital. This is crazy. This is a really cool concept. What Net Capital does, and before we engaged with Net Capital, if you wanted to invest in a startup like my company, you needed to be either an accredited investor or an institution. So an accredited investor is you need to meet certain criteria. You need to have like $1 million in liquid to even qualify to make an investment in a startup. If you're an institution, you need $5 million, right? VCs easily, checkbox that. Angel investors, family offices meet the individual. But if you're like a millennial and younger, you're not going to have $1 million in cash that you can just invest, right? So startups ventures were more geared towards those type of accredited investors or institutions. What Net Capital did was they allow non-accredited investors to invest in startups like mine.
Okay.
Yes, you have to go through a bunch of SEC requirements. We have to do a bunch of audit reviews. But once we're able to go through all of that, get approved, you as a individual investor can basically invest in my company as little as $100. So there's and then what Net Capital does is they aggregate all the investors in a pool, and they become a single line item and what we call a cap table. So cap table is all the investors that own a piece of my company, right? So Net Capital will be the investor. And, if they bring in like 1,000, 2,000 investors investing $100, $1,000 here and there, although they'll own shares in my company, but on my cap table, it will show up as a single line item called Net Capital. So I had to allocate shares for Net Capital investors. So we just went live about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago on Net Capital. So if you are if you are a person that is interested in owning a piece of history and owning a piece of PowerBuy, you can go to netcapital.com, look for PowerBuy, and then you can make an investment as little as $100 via credit card. And my board approved it because I would have never approved it. I don't need 1,000 investors, investing $100 to $1,000. But the reason why we did that is because, for us, we're a social company, right? Personal networks is in the DNA of our business. So if I can get all these, ambassadors and attract millennials and youngsters to invest in my company, they will ultimately become ambassadors and create awareness for PowerBuy. And if you own, whether you own $100, worth of shares of my company or $10,000, you're going to get the word out, right? Because you own a piece of the company. You're going to tell your friends and family. And that's how my board and I approve this to not only allow other millennials and youngers to invest in my company, but also to help create awareness of PowerBuy as we are disrupting e-commerce.
Create more organic traffic is what I just heard.
Yeah, exactly. And creating brand ambassadors for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you guys heard it here, netcapital.com. You can invest something as small as $100. Is there a time limit where they put in that money and they can't take it out? Because I know when it's something like this, it's probably like 6 months to a year it has to stay in, right?
No, well, if you make the investment, I think you have, I think 30 days, just say you make $100 commitment. You have up to 30 days to change your mind. And then you can get your refund back.
Okay,
But when you do commit, you will own shares in PowerBuy, and
that's awesome.
you'll be issued shares, and you will be an owner of a startup venture.
Seeing that gives us the opportunity to invest, as like not an angel investor where you don't have $1 million or $5 million liquid. I think that's great. So you guys definitely should consider that. Obviously, do your own due diligence first. Don't just watch this video and then go immediately on netcapital.com. However, you can do that too if you want to. It'll still work out for you. Is there any books that you recommend to anybody that's listening or that will listen?
Ooh, great question. So one of the books that I read, this is a long time ago, that I keep close with me, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I think it's very important because this world, Mark, revolves around people.
Right.
Yeah, there's computers, this and that, but at the end of the day, all the decisions, whether you're talking to an investor, you're talking to a brand, etc., you're dealing with people, with emotions. So understanding those emotions and how to basically understand and influence them, right, is key to getting what you want accomplished in your business or personal life, right?
Absolutely.
So that book kind of is one of the most important books that I really hold tight in my life, is How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Absolutely. And then another not personal question, but I ask everybody that gets involved because after you guys talk with me or anybody talks to me, I want them to feel fired up and more inspired than ever. So what are 3 things you guarantee that, as like, it doesn't have to be business though, on a personal level, whatever, that you feel that you can improve on this week?
Improve on
This week, or that you'll look to improve on and take action of some sort. Even it doesn't have to be 130%, 10%, little by little, right?
Okay, good. That's a great question. Personally, being there for my kids more versus delegating it to my wife. That's one.
Right. Hope she's not in the next room.
Second is to continue to challenge myself even further, because I don't think I'm challenging myself enough, even though I've gone through challenges.
Yeah.
And third is to let me see. Third is to stay in touch with your close friends more and more often.
I love that.
Staying in touch, even though you may have an issue with the close friends. You don't need to have 100 close friends. 1 or 2 is enough. But staying in touch and being close, I think I can do better with that.
Yeah, I love that. And it's hard to sometimes because we get lost in this life, especially when you're doing multiple things. You have your own family and kids, you got to put your attention towards them, especially after a long day. And I think it's important to check up on them. You never know how somebody else is doing. They might need you and they might not want to reach out for one reason or another. So I really like that last comment. It's just obviously challenging yourself too, but it's cool because we can't always control our feelings, but we can impact others and bring them up, and we can as well. But it's easier to impact someone else's life, and then it helps you on your own too. So it's kind of selfish in a way, not being selfish.
Right. Yep. Agreed.
Well, you guys have tuned in with Mr. CEO of PowerBuy. You heard it here first. Very humble, very awesome guy with a lot of knowledge. I just want to say again, thank you, Bruce, for enlightening us as of why PowerBuy is important, and just how to be grateful for everything. Because before that we even discussed having this, we were talking about gratitude and how important it is to learn to become your best self, to be able to be in a position to do the bigger things that you want to do. So we had Mr. Bruce. Is there anything else that you would like to leave us off with before leaving here today?
Yes. So if any of you guys that's listening has an idea or has a inkling to start your own business, just do it. You don't need to have everything in place. You don't need business plans. You don't need finance. It's great to have, but the first step for every entrepreneur and the most difficult step is taking that first step and setting up your own company. So if you have that drive, if you have that vision, if you want to do it, just take it the first step and just do it. And then human nature will kick in.
I love it. You heard it here first, you guys. Pivot, learn, but just do it. Make the attempt. Start walking, and then you'll be able to start running. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for your time. Let me just
Thanks, guys.
recording. All right.